Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you may be across the nation or around the world. Once again, you're listening to the VMware Community's Roundtable Podcast. This is podcast number 630. My name is Eric Nelson, and with me today I have my favorite co-host, Corey Romero. Today is Wednesday, December 14th, coming into the holiday season. It is beautiful weather here in Northern California. We had some rain last week, but it got sunny and beautiful. Corey, how you doing? And how's the weather up there in Utah?
Doing well. The weather is absolutely crazy. We've had 4 days of straight snow, haven't had a break. And I woke up this morning, I think we had about a foot in the driveway I had to clear. So it's been great, right? It's, I think we got the California storm that came over. So just been digging ourselves out every morning.
Yeah, that's right. And we're loving the
Yeah.
weather here. Rain, the vSphere are slowly filling back up. So even though you get it as massive snow, a day or two later, we're happy to have the weather for sure.
We are as well.
On the show today, we're going to be talking about vSphere 8 core storage. Everything's vSphere 8. Since vSphere 8 went GA, we're super excited about that. And we've got Jason, I don't know how to say his last name. I'll let him say it later. Massae or something.
Massae.
Massae, awesome. And Stephanie
Carrick.
I'm awful with last names, but we are going to be talking about vSphere 8 storage today. Excited about that. Excited to get to know everybody here, and we'll go from there. But Corey, let's talk a little bit about vExperts, because I know the apps are open. What else is going on with the vExperts?
Yeah, so we had some major announcements go out this morning. We've got a webinar tomorrow morning, so if you're a vExpert, please go read your email. We've done a partnership with Intel, and we're giving away 600 drives for home labs, and it's in 10 packs. So there will be 60 vExperts chosen. We will release the forms for you to sign up. That'll be tomorrow after the webinar, so we'll send out the recording as well as the form, so look for that. I'm also looking for a few people to do 2-minute videos with me on why you should become a vExpert. So we're going to market that across Twitter, and hopefully we can get some more people in the program this year for the 2023 program coming up. And also did a call for blogs for the benefits and why someone would want to become a vExpert. I sent out some notes on that. There's a form, so look at your emails. Also did a call for blogs for home labs. That was for the home lab Intel Nook that we gave out at the at VMware Explorer. And so if you have one of those and you've put it in your home lab and you're running software, shoot me an email. If you look at your email, there's also a form for you to go fill out to put that in. So we're going to start marketing those blog articles as well.
Excellent. Yeah, I know that they are running a home lab advantage for vMug, that we've been doing a campaign on that. So go check that out. You can, for $200, you can get the vMug Advantage program. A lot of people are buying that now because vSphere 8 came out, and then we've got the home lab stuff that we're doing. We're going to do a 12 days of the holiday season where we're going to give you some tasks you can go do on your home lab. So we're getting that campaign running. So a lot of fun stuff around home labbing with vSphere 8 coming out. And of course today talking about what's new with storage in vSphere 8. So excited about that. And then this Intel gig that we're going to do with Intel, they're excited about giving away hardware. Yeah. And it's just our first go with them, but they've got some pretty big budgets. So excited about that. And Corey, 10-pack of SSDs. I think they've got, I don't know the brand name of what their storage units are, but it's an enterprise class storage that you can, use in your home lab environment. So excited about that.
Yeah. I
guess I'm excited about everything on the podcast. Right? I hate that when people say that. Oh, I'm just so excited about everything. It's like, yeah, well, okay. But anyway, let's see if there's anything else in the news. No, we're coming into the holiday season. Yeah, we're gonna, we usually take the week off over after Christmas. So, but that gives us all time to do fun projects. And I'm looking to do my fun project. I'm going to upgrade my home lab to vSphere 8. I'm on 7 now, so I'm looking forward to doing that and having some hands-on hardware time for myself. So excited about that. So let's move on and get to our guests, Jason and Stephanie. Thanks for coming on the show. We always start with give us a little elevator pitch. on how you say your last name, how long you've been working at VMware, how long you've been in the IT ecosystem. You got a couple, 3 minutes here to tell us a little bit about your career arc history. Who are you? We are a community podcast. As always, we like to get to know people. So I guess I'll start with you, Stephanie. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay. Well, thank you, Eric. Well, my name is Stephanie Carrick. I am a product marketing manager for the Cloud Infrastructure Business Group, primarily cloud storage and data, with the primary focus of vSphere core storage and vVols. I've been with VMware for about 4 years, primarily focusing on storage, working primarily with vSAN for the last few years, and just kind of have now migrated and did a little bit more of a core storage and vVols. Have just been in a variety of different industries through my career and revolving around marketing, and now here at VMware for quite a few years, primarily working on storage and getting acclimated on that end.
Well, good. Thanks a lot for that. Jason, how about yourself?
So it's Jason Massae. I'm the technical marketing architect for all external storage. So whatever that has to do with VMFS, NFS, vVols, and occasionally even vSAN. And I've been working with VMware, been at VMware for about 5 years, just over 5 years now. But I've been in the industry for, almost 25 years in the IT, and been working as a VMware administrator and architect for like 15 years, maybe more, probably close to 20 years on that. I jumped in early on the virtualization, so lots of history there.
So we've had people come on talk a little bit about vSphere 8, what's happening, and a lot of cloud feature set. But everybody mentions quite a change for storage, right? Coming into vSphere 8. So which of you would like to kind of give us a summary of what's actually, what your design theory was when you're changing? Why did we change, right? We're adding capability, integrating capability, getting rid of some of the capability. Which of you wants to take us through that thought process and journey?
I'll jump in on that. So the kind of the overarching method or message when it comes to vSphere 8 is the focus on virtual volumes or vVols. And where you can see that is we added NVMe over Fabrics support for vVols, and NVMe over Fabrics being one of the leading technologies that both our storage partners and VMware are working hard to implement and utilize. As we know that a lot of the storage is going towards all flash, and it's usually NVMe flash.
Right.
That's completely different than SCSI as far as the way it can be accessed. So using the old SCSI protocol to access something that has massive parallelization doesn't really make sense. And it doesn't really give it the opportunity to give you that high bandwidth and low latency capability that NVMe does. So again, showing the commitment to vVols is really what we were trying to show with the vSphere 8 release, and the biggest announcement being that support for NVMe over Fabrics.
Yeah, that makes that makes sense. We've heard that. Storage is just going all chip-based storage. The days of spinning disks are almost at an end, or at least that was what other people mentioned. So that's kind of the direction that you went with vSphere 8, solidifying and canonizing that design strategy, right? And so, Stephanie, from a marketing perspective, how is VMware doing in storage, right? Like, I know that we've kind of have a certain amount of adoption over time, right? Like, where do we think where do we start, and are we now making progress in the enterprise when it comes to using us as a Class A vendor for storage?
Well, I think, definitely we've come a long way through what we have put together and architect. We offer a lot of different solutions to our customers, our vSphere customers, as far as bringing in their own storage, and as well as, we have a lot of different, they can bring in their arrays, But with vVols, it's a unique value proposition for them because now they can bring in their arrays and be able to virtualize, their SANs and NAS arrays, as company, and then use, in addition to that, the storage-based policy management, that framework that provides a single uniform control plane for a broad range of data services and solutions that helps our customers align storage with the application demands of a VM. So, that's where vVols, and then we also have vSAN, which is our software-defined storage. So we're offering customers, as the environment is changing and data is growing so fast that the traditional data center has evolved. I mean, now we have multi-cloud strategies, we have cloud native strategies, and the growing of data storage requirements and how enterprises need to change and support that business environment, that we're providing the tools and the framework and the management control plane to help customers with, the fast, ever-changing, dynamics of the business world, and especially the storage landscape, to help customers become more agile in their data center and to scale quickly.
Right. So Jason, on an architecture perspective, when we go to SSDs, there's obviously performance and bandwidth capability. You mentioned, scalability, scaling, and when you look at like what you get from that, is there like major benefits from the architecture changing to SSD? And when we go to vSphere 8, what can people expect?
Well, kind of the idea, right? If you were to compare SCSI versus NVMe, we use a pretty simple analogy. Is if you think of a stadium, think of you're trying to go to the World Cup and you've got, 64,000, 70,000 seats. We'll say 64,000 because that's a specific number, but 64,000 seats, and you're trying to fill that through, one or two entrances or exits. It's obviously going to take a long time to fill that stadium or empty that stadium. When you think of NVMe and the capability of that protocol itself, it's capable of 64,000 queues and 64,000 commands per queue. So now think about that same 64,000 seat stadium having an entrance for every single seat. How quickly you could fill or empty that stadium would be very, very fast. And that's really the big benefit of NVMe in general. So initially, obviously, NVMe was local. It was PCIe, so local bus. But what we've done is the industry has come up with this NVMe over Fabrics. And we have a couple of protocols that VMware specifically is supporting, and it's NVMe using TCP, RDMA, or FC. But either way, what we're doing is extending that NVMe protocol out to external storage. So because of that capability, now we have substantially greater parallel lines and deeper queues to access that media. So now our performance, our throughput goes up substantially, and the latency goes down because we're not queuing as much, because we have so many queues and so many queue commands per queue. So that's really kind of the idea of the industry, and also why VMware is focusing on the NVMe over Fabrics. And then to take that one step further, being able to use vVols on top of NVMe over Fabrics now gives you the granularity control of managing storage capabilities at a VM level instead of managing at a data store level. So now you have a lot more autonomy. You're able to manage your storage capabilities using the policy-based management. And you have the granularity, and each of those VMs, now their objects are native on the array. They're not sitting on top of another file system. So they're going to get the maximum performance from that array because there's nothing below it. And we're really close to end-to-end NVMe. Right now, there's a slight bit of translation at the VM level into SCSI and then over to our NVMe stack. Within the next few releases, we hope to be full end-to-end NVMe, which will really allow the application or the OS to take maximum advantage of that NVMe protocol and how fast and the low latency functionality is.
Stephanie, it reminds me of the history of VMware, where we had virtualization. You actually, to get adoption of the VM, you actually had to have storage, on board, right? And when we then got bought by EMC, and EMC came along and verified all the storage that capability that they had with VMs. So I guess it comes back to now with this. What's adoption in the industry with regard to this? Where is the cloud people, like how compatible, I can look at the hardware compatibility guides and the industry accepting SSDs, and what's the hardware refresh rate on that. So what's the story on, when I can adopt this new model in my enterprise? How far along is the industry with regard to accepting this as the practice to run your storage environment?
Well, I mean, NVMe is it's becoming and growing in popularity because of its better performance and low latency and some of the things that Jason, we are seeing a lot of our vendors, some of our core partners or our storage partners come up with NVMe arrays, which we can, into the marketplace. So we're seeing that as well. And then also with vSAN, we recently did support for NVMe as well. So you're seeing a great adoption for that, particularly that going forward. And you will see, and that's where vVols comes into play too, because as customers bring into their arrays into the environment, vVols help streamline, and again, with that storage-based policy management, be able to best address and create storage policies to help scale and take the benefits of those NVMe flash arrays.
So and actually, in Europe, I had 3 or 4 communications with customers actively using NVMe over Fabrics in various ways. Some were using RDMA, which is the fastest, a little more of a setup process, and there's some dedicated hardware. And there was a few customers that were using TCP, NVMe over TCP, and which is very simple. In fact, I'm actually working on a blog right now, an article showing the process of how simple it is to set up. So there's customers actively utilizing and adopting this right now.
And I assume that we had a lot of customer interaction when designing vSphere 8 and moving in this direction, like that drove us to adopt this as well. The industry's adopting it. There's obviously speed advantages, and so I assume we were working with some of our leading customers already and making sure that this is, how much of this was production tested with big customers. Like, do we have customers that have been running this in production now for the last half a year as we moved into releasing this in vSphere 8?
Mm-hmm. So the NVMe over Fabrics functionality actually was released in vSphere 7. What we've done is added, with each iteration, we've added either additional protocols or additional features. And so we've actually had some design customers, that were willing to go and do some testing since vSphere 7. So as of vSphere 8, it's pretty mature, and we've seen a lot more customers that are adopting it and seeing the benefits. And the nice thing about the way the setup works for NVMe over Fabrics is that it can run in parallel with a lot of the existing infrastructure. So if you have FC or TCP, you can literally have an NVMe data store and a regular SCSI data store from the same array in your same environment, which it makes it very easy for customers to test it and also verify and see the performance or latency differences, because all it is a storage vMotion from one data store to another. There's no massive, I've got to replace everything or I've got to change everything. They can literally just storage vMotion a VM from a SCSI data store to an NVMe over Fabrics data store and see the performance right off the bat without even having to change the VM. Now, later, as we get closer and closer to that end-to-end NVMe over fabrics, that's when customers are going to want to start changing the VM configuration and adding a virtual NVMe adapter so that there's actually no translation. That NVMe protocol goes from the guest OS all the way through to the array itself. And so that we're, like I said, we're very, very close to that right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. When we talk about cloud storage, right, and VMC and AWS and the other cloud vendors, are they adapting this as well as they adopt into vSphere 8? And do I connect my cloud storage back to my data center storage as well? Do customers do this? Does this impact what I'm building up? And do we need cloud vendors to adopt this as well?
So the cloud vendors are not adopting the NVMe over fabrics yet. This is actually something that I've been talking with engineering about, and hopefully this is something we can see in the future with some of the more simple protocols like the TCP. That makes sense. But yeah, unless they're doing vSAN and it's local and they're using that cloud functionality, it's like, VMC on AWS, that could potentially be using the NVMe drives locally, but not NVMe over fabrics.
Right. Stephanie, how much adoption is happening in the marketplace with regard to VMware storage versus, do you guys get market reports on, what percentage of storage do people use vSAN with? Like, what's the penetration wise with regard to our storage solutions versus the industry as a whole?
Well, I mean, we have with vSAN, we have 30,000 plus customers adopting the vSAN. So it's pretty well adopted. With the vSphere environment, we still have a lot of customers using vSAN as well as, using, bringing in their own storage arrays into it, into the vSphere environment. And that's where kind of vVols comes into play because it helps, bring in those array capabilities. And also with storage-based policy management, bringing in the ability to manage it. So we're seeing kind of a little bit of both. vSAN is definitely growing into that hybrid. It's that software-defined, and as you go into cloud, you need that capability, as well as we are still seeing folks who need certain workloads for certain arrays. And in that case, where maybe a vSAN environment might not work, where they can bring in their arrays and see about the storage-based policy management and the software-defined storage and how easy that is to work. And as we grow and then get into the cloud, how that adoption using that common management plane to be able to move from on-prem to off-prem and then back and forth and having that one pane glass window to see it all.
That makes sense. Right. Okay. When we talk about pricing and licensing, I'm not even sure how we go about this, right? So maybe you can give us a quick tutorial on how are we, when it comes to price competitiveness on building a virtual storage environment, compared to other solutions.
When it comes to vSAN, that's usually your easiest way to do the comparison versus traditional storage. And when you think about the vSAN functionality, what you're going to get is it's going to be fairly close in the cost. You might actually get a little more benefit out of vSAN because a lot of times when you do a purchase of a vSAN environment, because you're buying just standard x86 servers, you might be able to do those purchases as an expense versus a capital expense when you're looking at traditional infrastructure, right? A traditional array sometimes has to be a capital purchase. And in many times, depending on, the vendors and the configuration, you might be able to make an expense purchase for a vSAN node. Now, one of the things that you usually look at is more the TCO on vSAN is that you're going to be able to simplify your infrastructure because you don't need an external array if you wanted to do that. Now, there are customers that are using external and HCI environments. They're using vSAN and traditional storage. And in that aspect, that's when we encourage customers to adopt and add vVols to their environment, because now they can use that same process. And that's what Stephanie was talking about, that policy-based management. They can use that same exact process, same basically configurable and programmatic approach to managing storage for both their internal or HCI storage and their external storage. And so in that aspect, now you're increasing the value of that external storage array by simplifying the management. There's no more LUN creation. There's no more, manual intervention that the storage administrator has to do. For the most part, the VI admin could now manage all of the storage across all the different types of environments, including if they're doing, hybrid cloud environments where they're doing some on-prem and some off-prem. That same policy-based management lets them do that in both environments. And that's really what we're trying to help customers see, is that value of that policy-based management, because that really helps to simplify the storage management. And it also allows for a much greater scale, because managing thousands of hosts with possibly thousands of data stores becomes an arduous process and somewhat daunting. But if you can manage all of that using policy-based management, now it becomes very simple, and it also becomes very programmatic, where you can script a lot of the deployments. And that includes Cloud Foundation, CNS or Tanzu, cloud deployments. You can now use that same process across all of them. So that value can be across the entire platform.
I was going to ask you that, like, when you come to scripting, like, do we provide APIs? You use PowerShell? What's the best way to interact at scale? Do you just do this with your traditional managing your VMs and adding storage and writing PowerShell to control all of that, REST APIs? What are the best ways that people are doing to automate this?
So we actually, we're intentional about how vVols was deployed, and it works the same with vSAN. You can use PowerShell, you can use the orchestrator, you can use now it's ARIA automation, used to be vRealize. So any of those tools will work on vVols and vSAN. So that really helps for customers. There's a lot of customers that tend to use orchestrator and create these workflows for deployments. And so all of that will work on both vVols and vSAN. And so that simplifies that process, because customers that were doing that with traditional storage have to go in and manually set up tags to be able to say, I want it to land on this data store that has this storage capability. Whereas with vSAN and vVols, they can just go in and pick a storage policy, and that policy will then make sure that that VM gets the storage capability that it needs. And that could apply to persistent volumes within the Tanzu environment as well, or workload domains on Cloud Foundation. So you can see that all of those ecosystem, we made sure that vVols was just as scriptable and scalable in management as vSAN. So customers can go back and forth without having to change processes or automation tools. They can use the same processes and automation tools for both platforms.
Great. Stephanie, I can't go too long without calling out VirtualBlocks, which is the corporate blog that we have at vmware.com/virtualblocks, just all one word. And you've got an article out here that talks about vSphere 8 core storage, what's new, which is a great article. You can just go to VirtualBlocks and look. I think it's one of the top articles here. It was done on September 20th. Back in 2022, which is now this year. One of the things that's in here is container storage enhancements on cloud native storage. So maybe just talk a little bit about that part of your blog, and I would encourage people to go check out this blog, because it just talks about some of the short blog. It talks about some of the new stuff, and one of there is container storage enhancements.
Yes. So we, and maybe Jason can get a little bit more into detail on that, but it's more or less on the VMSI where we can allow certain allocations for VMS. Do you want to get a little bit more into that, Jason?
Sure. So one of the things that we had done when, I talked a little bit about the Tanzu and the CNS functionality. When customers are using Kubernetes or some type of containers workloads, they need to set up certain storage capabilities. And in some cases, they want to set up a provisioning type. So whether that's eager thick, lazy thick, or thin. Now, previously, that wasn't an option that was available via SPBM, the storage policy-based management. And so what we've done is specifically to enable that functionality for Tanzu CNS is that now customers can actually go in and pick a provisioning type for their persistent volumes. And so now when they set up that storage class within the containers environment, they can associate with that a storage policy. And now when that VM gets, or that workload is deployed, that persistent volume is automatically going to get the provisioning type and the storage capability that the DevOps admin wants that to get, without having to ask the storage admin or the VI admin to provision specific storage. And so again, that goes back to, just what we were talking about earlier, Eric, was that scriptability, that programmatic approach to managing volumes or managing storage. And so we added that functionality in there as far as for CNS and CSI functionality.
Nice. Makes sense. As we come into 2024, I know we're all doing 2024 planning for next year. What are some of the big things that you see are coming next for storage? I mean, obviously, NVMe end-to-end, you've talked about that, right? Which is going to be key. Other things that you want to convey here today about what's new in vSphere 8, or where do you think we're going?
So we're definitely focusing, our primary focus is on vVols. So you're going to see a lot of neat things coming out with vVols. In fact, one of the things that we tech previewed, we don't have an official date yet, but one of the number one requests is stretched clusters for vVols. So active clusters for vVols. And so Pure and VMware, and actually Dell is also working on this as well, they're some of our design partners for this stretched cluster functionality. And so we're hoping to have that soon. That's something that the European region has been asking for a long time. It's a very heavy lift. There's actually a lot of work to get stretched vVols. But like I said, we did a tech preview. Customers can go to the VMware or VM Explorer site, and I believe one of those sessions was recorded in the Europe region, and so they can go see some demos and see exactly where we are so far. But at least we have some functioning work on that. So that's going to be one of the big ones. You're going to see more NVMe over Fabrics work, both on capabilities, like I said, the end-to-end NVMe, more vVols for the different protocols. So a lot more features that we're going to add within the NVMe over Fabrics. So even if it's not vVols, there's certain features that we're trying to bring where it makes sense to make it parity for VMFS or NFS. Not all of those features are going to be brought over, because some of the features are SCSI specific and they're meant for that SCSI protocol. So some of those don't make sense to bring into the NVMe space. Others do make sense, cloning, Xcopy, stuff like that. So you're going to see a lot of those type of features being added. So a lot of work both on NVMe over Fabrics and the vVol space when it comes to external storage.
Okay. Stephanie, going into 2024, also there's a push for SaaS licensing, and I don't know if we get into SaaS licensing here or not, but I'll ask you that, and then I'll also ask you what are you looking to do? What do you do from a marketing perspective into 2024? Are you focused on inbound collecting customer requirements and work with engineering, or do you do kind of like briefing center, engage with enterprise customers? But first, I guess let's say SaaS licensing, and then we'll hit what are you going to be doing for 2024?
So the SaaS licensing will be working in primarily, with, vSphere Plus is coming out and all, integrating with that cloud platform, being able to see that one plane against that cloud management platform. So you'll be seeing some of that with regards to vVols, because vVols is a feature of vSphere. So seeing that capability maybe being brought into the vSphere Plus and a part of the SaaS. As far as going into this next year, 2024, our fiscal year, or this upcoming year, really focusing on core storage, just educating folks on vVols. As Jason had mentioned, we will be seeing a lot more features coming out on vVols as a solution, and working with our partners, our storage ecosystem partners, to be able to, working with them on education as well as, working on NVMe and telling folks and just educating folks on our storage. We want everyone, or the work flows to stay on to vSphere and to continue. And there's a lot of opportunities here in storage capabilities, and really just focusing on our customers going forward and our storage partners, and making sure that they're bringing in those solutions too, to help out.
Yeah. I can see, like, we've talked to Broadcom, Hawk 10, and he's like, the enterprise is still big, data centers are still big, not everything is just going to the cloud and vanishing. The data is growing, and he's like, there's a giant business in running data centers and enterprise computing in general. And so if you listen to him, he's kind of like, there's just a lot of work to support existing ecosystem customers and like moving them forward on these new technologies like NVMe. So I guess you have a partner when it comes to Broadcom, because I feel like they kind of get the enterprise and get the idea that there's just a lot of work to implement today's storage architectures that are already out in data centers, and those are going to continue to migrate forward, right?
Exactly. You're going to have an on-prem and off-prem, way of doing things, and we still need to support it and have an ecosystem that supports it as well.
Right. So, Jason, any other things that we're missing from, we talked to NVMe, end-to-end point, policy management is big coming, every release. Other things that we haven't touched on before we, run out of time here?
So the easiest way for customers to stay current, we talked a little bit about virtual blocks. A lot of our stuff goes out on virtual blocks, but for the admins, for the guys that are and girls that are working on all this stuff day to day, definitely go to core.vmware.com. So that's where all of the tech marketing resources are, and we keep that as accurate and current as possible. So, for example, all of the stuff we've talked about, I've got a full white paper out there on all of the features and the technical details for the features that were released in every release, actually, starting from 6.7. So if customers really want to dive in and find out, a certain feature or certain function, when was that available? What vSphere version was that available? I have that out there. I have a whole storage site. I have a whole vVols site if you're interested learning about vVols. vSAN is out there. Cloud Foundation, even container stuff is out there. So that's a really good place that I recommend that admins bookmark, is that core.vmware.com. It's a great place to start. All of the resources are out there.
Right. I just checked it out, and it does look good. And it's a nice microsite that also links out to communities. And so go check out core.vmware.com. I hadn't heard of that one, so good to know. And then you guys are just updating that with content, interesting articles on various technology subjects around storage. So.
And I have a lot of resource pages out there to try and help admins with their day-to-day operations, right? So if you're looking for NVMe over Fabrics resources, I have a whole resource page so that you don't have to go chase down trying to figure out how do I do TCP, how do I do RDMA, how do I do FC. I have links to docs and KBs and demos and stuff like that. And I have the same thing for vVols and the same thing. We have the same thing for vSAN. And I mean, just there's all kinds of resources out there. And even I have one page that's also all of the guides, right? So the storage guide, the VI guide, the resource guides, again, so you don't have to chase those down.
Nice. Excellent. 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 All right. I know that we come up to the top of the hour. So we've got the virtual blocks. We've got core.vmware.com. Are you guys both on Twitter?
Yes, I am. That's
Okay,
a good place. And anything that I put out there. So my handle is JB Massae, Massae. All of my content is storage related and VMware related. So I know there's sometimes you get Twitter's pretty loud right now, but anything that I have out there is going to be VMware storage related. So don't feel
JB is in John Boy.
Yep.
Massae. Go give him a follow at JB Massae. Love that. And Stephanie, are you on Twitter as well?
You know, I'm not as active on Twitter, but I'm Steph22 at twitter.com. Steph Carrick at twitter.com. So.
STEPH.
Yes.
Yeah. Carrick, K-A-R-I-C. Good. Go give her a follow. We'll get her active anyway. We'll get her going. There we go. No, we have a lot of big Twitter fans out here. We come up to the top of the hour here, and when we do, I know we got a light start, but because we run this on vBarbecue, so you can go to youtube.com/vbarbecue, BARBECUE. You can go look at what Stephanie and Jason looks like. So if you ever run into them at a VMware Explorer, you'll know who they are, and you can say that you saw them. We talk barbecue at the end of the podcast. So I will start with Jason. Jason, I don't know. I didn't ask you where you hang out. Where do you live? What state do you come from? Because barbecue is different in every state. But we do the what state are you from, and what kind of barbecue do you either fix, eat, or go to a restaurant and get? What's your barbecue story?
Oh, I could talk about barbecue. That's for sure. I think I've got 4 or 5 different barbecues. I'm in Northern California, up around Sacramento area, and I've got I have a couple of kettle smokers, gas grill, and I've also got a pellet smoker. And probably the favorite I like to do is either tri-tip or some type of fish. I love doing a nice smoked salmon out there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody goes for brisket. Whenever I ask guests, like, oh, what do? I do a brisket. And I'm like, I'm from Northern California, and tri-tip, and mostly California in general, we don't do a lot of sauces. We do rubs, and then a good tri-tip is like the best thing in the world. If you get tri-tip right, with a good garlic rub or whatever it is, that's like the best.
Yeah, I like the dry rubs personally.
Yeah, personally, me too. Right. And then I do have a Traeger that I use to smoke, and I also use a Kingford just Weber grill to just traditionally. I'll typically do my my tri-tip on just my Kingford with coals, right? Because it's a quick cook. You don't have to do it very long, and you get a nice crusty coating on the outside of it. Awesome. Stephanie, same thing. Where are you from, and do you ever get a chance to barbecue or go eat some barbecue? Where are you? What state are you out of?
I'm actually in I'm in California, near the headquarters, Palo Alto, so very close. And traditionally we do a lot of barbecuing here, but it's usually a lot of fish or tri-tip. Me and my family, we do typically those. Again, we like the rubs as opposed to the sauce. So we try to experiment a lot with different kinds of rubs and always looking for new ones to prepare. So nice. I'm typically the fish. The rest of my family likes tri-tip, so we have to do a little bit of both.
Yeah, we've been doing both. I used my Traeger to smoke fish, where I did like a 6-hour smoke, and I brined the fish in saltwater brine
Oh,
for 24 hours, and then smoked it. And it's, you got fish, and you can obviously do a nice, easy barbecue. Yeah, smoke a fish either way. It's good. I give you credit for good salmon here up in Northern California. Yeah, not too bad. So yeah, I'm from Palo Alto. Also, I live here in Palo Alto, and so we're all three northern barbecuers, right? Which is, if you get out in Texas, they're going to be putting sauces on it and smoking and using a lot of drip grease. But they'll do layers of barbecue, right? So it just depends where you're from, right? If we don't use sauce on our barbecue, but anyway, places do.
But a good rub is really good. You can make some great stuff with a great rub. Like,
right. Absolutely, that's right. It's all about making the cow eat the right grass, right? There you go. That's the California barbecue.
Right.
I always love doing a set of baby backs. That's my favorite too. Is I'll go out and put those out there for 6, 7, 8 hours and just let them slow cook. And
you can never go wrong with baby back ribs. I generally will just go to Armadillo Willie's or whatever and get my ribs there. Or back in the day, Tony Roma's used to just boil them and then slather them with barbecue sauce, and I would go get that because it just fall off. But yeah, there you go. Now you get me hungry, and it is almost 1 o'clock, so it is lunchtime here in California. Stephanie, Jason, thanks a lot for coming and give us a quick update on storage. Everybody go out, get vSphere 8 and go have some fun and give us some feedback.
Yeah, like Corey said earlier, I definitely believe in the vExpert stuff. And a lot of times the vExperts do get access to the technical marketing guys. We're actually on the vExpert Slack channel. So if you do get access to that, you can find a lot of us. I'm out there. I don't tend to watch it, but if you want to ping me directly, I'll usually respond.
Right.
So
keep
that in mind. I definitely am a big fan of the vExpert. I used to be a big piece of it, but once I moved over to VMware, I was like, well, I don't see if that makes the same if I'm a vExpert working for VMware.
Awesome. Well, thanks a lot, guys, for coming on the show and give us your time. Stephanie, I expect you to be on Twitter every week. Get out there and give us a tweet. I'm going to follow you, and I'm going to retweet your stuff, and you're going to be a rock star on Twitter by the time we're done with you.
There you go.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for showing up, and we'll be back again for one more week before the Christmas holiday. Until then, go get some barbecue. Talk to you later.
Cheers. Have a good day.